Hastings is a New Zealand city and is one of the two major urban areas in Hawke's Bay on the east coast of the North Island of New Zealand. The population of Hastings is about 68,200 as of the June 2015 estimate. Hastings is about 18 kilometres inland of the coastal city of Napier. These two neighbouring cities are often called the Bay Cities or the Twin Cities. The combined population of the Napier-Hastings urban area is 129,700 people, which makes it the sixth largest urban area in New Zealand, closely following Tauranga. The city is the administrative centre of the Hastings district. The city of Hastings and its outlying suburbs of Flaxmere and Havelock north of the principal settlements in the Hastings district. These main centres are surrounded by 38 rural settlements, including Clive and Haumoana. Hastings district covers an area of 5,229 square kilometres and has 1.7% of the population of New Zealand, ranking it 14th in size out of the 74 territorial authorities. Since the merger of the surrounding and satellite settlements, Hastings has grown to become one of the largest urban areas in Hawke's Bay. Hastings district is a food production region. The fertile Hitaanga plains surrounding the city produce stone fruits, palmer fruit, kiwi fruit and vegetables, and the area is one of New Zealand's major red wine producers. Associated business include food processing, agricultural services, rural finance and freight. Hastings is the major service centre for the surrounding inland pastoral communities and tourism. History. Maori history. Near the 14th century CE, Maori arrived in Hitaanga, Hawke's Bay, settling in the river valleys and along the coast where food was plentiful. It is believed that Maori arrived at Hitaanga by canoe, travelling down the coast from the north, landing at Wairoa, Portland Island, the Ahuriri Lagoon at West Shore, and at Waimarama. The culture flourished, along with gradual deforestation of the land, making this one of the few regions of New Zealand where sheep could be brought in without felling the bush first. In the 16th century, Taraia, great-grandson of the great and prolific chief Kahanganu, established the large tribe of Ngāti Kahanganu, which eventually colonized the eastern side of the North Island from Poverty Bay to Wairapara. They were one of the first Maori tribes to come in contact with European settlers. European settlers' history. The Maori owners leased approximately 70 square kilometers on the Hitaanga Plains to Thomas Tanner in 1867. Tanner had been trying to purchase the land since 1864. In 1870, 12 people, known as the 12 Apostles, formed a syndicate to purchase the land for around £1.10 an acre. Many local people firmly believe that Hastings was originally named Hicksville, after Francis Hicks, who bought a 100-acre block of land, which now contains the centre of Hastings, from Thomas Tanner. However, this story is apocryphal. The original name of the location, which was to become the town centre, was Karamu. In 1871, the New Zealand government decided to route the new railway south of Napier through a notional Karamu junction in the centre of the Hitaanga Plains. This location was on Francis Hicks's land. The decision on the railway route was based largely on two reports by Charles Webber, the provincial engineer and surveyor in charge of the railway. Karamu Junction was renamed Hastings in 1873. Exactly who chose the name has been disputed, although Thomas Tanner claimed that it was him and that the choice was inspired by his reading The Trial of Warren Hastings. In any event, the name fitted well with other place names in the district, which were also named after prominent figures in the history of British India. In 1874, the first train took a 12-mile trip from Napier to Hastings, opening up Hastings as an export centre. centre, through Port Ahuriri. A big jump in the local economy occurred when Edward Newbigin opened a brewery in 1881. By the next year, there were 195 freeholders of land in the town, and with around 600 people, the town was incorporated as a borough on the 20th of October 1886. Hastings first received power in 1912, followed by Napier in 1915. In 1918, nearly 300 people died of a flu epidemic that swept Hawke's Bay. 1931 earthquake. On the 3rd of February 1931, at 10:47 a.m., most of Hastings was leveled by an earthquake measuring 7.8 on the Richter scale. In Hastings, the ground subsided roughly 1 meter. The collapse of buildings and the ensuing fires killed 258 people, of which 93 were in Hastings. The centre of Hastings was destroyed in the earthquake, and was subsequently rebuilt in the Art Deco and Spanish Mission styles, which were both popular at the time. Due to quick thinking by residents and the local fire department, Hastings did not suffer the extent of fire damage that Napier did. Most deaths were attributed to collapsing buildings, namely Roach's department store in Hitaunga Street, where 17 people died. 1932 to 1999. During World War II, Allied troops were billeted at the Army, Navy and Air Force Club, and in private homes. 150 members belonging to 16 different local clubs pacts applies to be sent to Allied soldiers. In 1954, Hastings was the first city in New Zealand to introduce fluoridation of its water supply. The intention was to compare the effect on tooth decay with that in the unfluoridated city of Napier over a 10-year period. The study was criticized for its methodology and results, and remains controversial. On the 10th of September 1960, the Hastings Blossom Parade was cancelled at 11 a.m. for the first time in its history due to rain. Parade attendees drank in bars for several hours, and when subsequently an impromptu parade began at 2 p.m. A riot started as police tried to arrest those intoxicated in public. This was considered a significant event in New Zealand society, with modern youth rebellion culture being labelled antisocial, and was subsequently much publicised with the national election later that year. Hastings grew rapidly throughout the 1960s and 1970s, and there was a major issue dealing with encroachment of suburban expansion on highly productive land. Flaxmere was established as a satellite suburb to absorb rapid growth, and was built upon the stony, arid soils of the abandoned course of the Naruroro River. Although the land seemed worthless back then, it has subsequently proved highly valued for grape growing, and now is a prized region of red wine varietals in the world-famous Gimbled Gravels wine-growing region. Starting with economic decline nationally in the late 1970s, coupled with agricultural subsidy reforms in the early 1980s, Hastings went into a recession with more unemployment and low economic growth. It was not until the mid-1990s that the economy of Hastings began to turn around. During the 1989 local government reforms, Hastings City amalgamated with the Havelock North Borough and Hawke's Bay County to form the modern Hastings District. The county council offices in Napier were closed in favour of Hastings, and the new Hastings District Council offices were built on two sites. The Napier city boundary was expanded to include Bayview and Meaney. However, unlike largely urban Napier, much of the newly formed Hastings District is rural and sparsely populated. The Hastings District has approximately approximately 77,900 residents. Because of the proximity to each other and the relatively small populations, Hastings and Napier are often seen as candidates for further amalgamation. This was attempted with the 1999 Amalgamation Referendum, where 75% of Napier residents opposed and 64% of Hastings residents were in support. 2000 to today at 11:25 p.m. on the 25th of August 2008, the city was hit by an earthquake measuring 5.9 on the Richter scale. The epicenter was based only 10 kilometers south of the city, near Mount Erin at a depth of 32 kilometers. The earthquake caused minor damage to shops, where stock was shaken off shelves. Power outages were also reported. This was the most powerful earthquake to hit the region since the 5.8 Hastings earthquake in October 2001. In 2010, the city, together with New Plymouth, became one of the 2 walking and cycling model communities, qualifying for further co-funding by the national government to improve its walking paths and cycleways, and encourage people to use active forms of transport. Timeline 1867. Maori owners leased 70 square kilometers of land from the Huritanga Plains to Tomastana. It was the site of Karamu Junction. 1873. The town of Karamu Junction is officially renamed Hastings. 1874. Hastings is connected to the North Island Main Trunk Line. 1886 to 20 October. Hastings Town is incorporated as a borough. 1912. Hastings is connected to electricity, followed by Napier in 1915. 1918. Nearly 300 people die of a flu epidemic that swept Hawke's Bay. 1931 to 3 February. Hastings is rocked by a 7.8 magnitude earthquake, killing 256 people. 1932 to 16 September. Hastings is rocked by a 6.9 magnitude earthquake. It is the final large earthquake in the 1931–1932 earthquake events. 1950. The first Blossom Parade was held in Hastings and is now a popular annual event. 1951 to 10 February. Hastings is rocked by a 6.1 magnitude earthquake at 3:27 p.m. 1954. Hastings was the first city in New Zealand to introduce fluoridation of its water supply. 1960 to 10 September. The Hastings Blossom Parade was cancelled at 11 a.m. for the first time in its history due to rain. 1989. Hastings City and the Havelock North Borough amalgamated to form the modern-day Hastings District. 1993 to 11 April. A 6.1 magnitude earthquake strikes 15 kilometers southwest of Hastings and is felt as far south as Christchurch. 2008 to 25 August. A 5.9 magnitude earthquake centered 10 kilometers south of Hastings caused an estimated $5 million in damage. 2010. The city became a walking and cycling model community. Geography and climate. Located on New Zealand's east coast to the east of the Central Plateau and the rain shadow of the Kauaka Ranges, Hastings is situated on the fertile alluvial Huritanga Plains. The plains were originally covered in swamp and mangroves, but have since been drained for agriculture. The local area is very productive, with orchards, farms and vineyards, and lies upon New Zealand's most economically valuable aquifer. Hastings lies roughly 250 kilometres northeast of the nation's capital Wellington and 350 kilometres southeast of the largest city, Auckland. Hastings enjoys an oceanic climate. It is a common misconception that it is a Mediterranean climate, mainly due to hot summers and low annual rainfall. However, the driest month, November, has more than one-third of the rainfall of the wettest month, hence it is not a true Mediterranean climate. Sunshine hours rank over 2,200 annually, while rainfall averages less than 800 millimeters. It is one of the country's warmest annually and the hottest urban area in summer, with New Zealand's highest January maximum average of 26 degrees Celsius. Alexandra has 25.5 degrees Celsius and Christchurch 22.7 degrees Celsius. Because of its location 15 kilometers inland, the sea breeze does not tend to have the same effect on Hastings' climate as it does on Napier. It is not uncommon for the temperature to be in the low 30 degrees Celsius on summer days, while in winter, days of 15 degrees Celsius plus are frequent, occasionally exceeding 20 degrees Celsius with northwest winds. Winters tend to be quite still and crisp with frequent frosts followed by bright, cold, sunny days. Demographics. Hastings district encompasses a large area of Hawke's Bay. The population of Hastings district is 77,400. The central urban area, however, which is specifically the population centre of Hastings, Flaxmere, and Havelock North, is around 73,000. Due to restrictions on encroachment of land, satellite suburbs have absorbed the residential expansion of the city. Compared to other cities of similar size, Hastings has grown relatively quick since it was settled in 1864. Hastings is known for its gridiron city planning system, crisscrossed by the railway line running northeast-southwest and the main southeast-northwest artery, Hiraanga Street, which also links the city with its suburban centres of Havelock North and Flaxmere. Many Hastings residents work in the city, and the area is populated by middle to upper income families, particularly in Havelock North, and then middle to lower income families in other areas, especially towards Camberley and the north end of Flaxmere. At the 2013 census, Hastings district had a population of 73,245, an increase of 2,803 people, or 2.9%, since the 2006 census. There were 27,042 occupied dwellings, 2,334 unoccupied dwellings, and 123 dwellings under construction. Hastings's ethnicity was made up of 75.2% European, 24.4% Maori, 4.3% Asian, 6.0% Pacific Islanders, 0.5% Middle Eastern, Latin American, African, and 1.8% New Zealanders. Hastings had an unemployment rate of 6.9% of people 15 years and over, compared to 7.1% nationally. The average annual income of all people 15 years and over in Hastings was $26,500, compared to $28,500 nationally. Of those, 39.1% earned under $20,000 annually, compared to 38.2% nationally, while 22.3% earned over $50,000 annually, compared to 26.7% nationally. City suburbs: Arkina, Camberley, Frimley, Hastings CBD, Mahora, Mayfair, Parkvale, Raurika, St Leonards, Stortford Lodge, Tomawana, Woolwich. Outlying urban suburbs: Clive, Flaxmere, Haumawana, Havelock North, Tauranga, Waimarama, Whakata. Outlying communities: Bridgepa, Longlands, Marikakaho, Omahu, Fernhill, Paki, Paukawa, Kawa, Raukawa, Waipatu. Economy. Hastings District, as one of the largest apple, pear and stone fruit producing areas in New Zealand, has an important relationship with the Napier port. It has also become an important grape growing and wine production area, with the fruit passing from the growers around metropolitan Hastings and then to Napier for exporting. Napier is an important service centre for the agriculture and pastoral output of the predominantly rural Hastings district. Shopping is heavily weighted by large-format retail in Hastings City, whereas in contrast, Havelock North, Taradale and Central Napier retail areas have a more vibrant boutique flavour. Redevelopment. By the end of the 20th century, Hastings, along with most of New Zealand, was suffering from the recent economic downturn, with industries and freezing works closing due to the agricultural subsidy reforms in the early 1980s. However, after multi-million-dollar regeneration projects and the employment of artists, Hastings has seen a change in its aesthetics. A CBD strategy was enforced to revitalize the central retail core, while promoting Havelock North as a luxury boutique destination. The strategy proved extremely successful, and Hastings' vacancy rates hit an all-time low in 2005. The current goal of the council is to continue developing Hastings CBD to attract additional national chains, while attracting more cafes and entertainment venues. Is currently active in the eastern blocks of Hitaunga Street. The Hastings District Council has recently relocated and consequently rebuilt the Hastings Sports Park at a new facility on the edge of the Hastings urban area to make way for a large megacentre, also known as large-format stores. A comprehensive study was conducted before the sale, concluding that retaining big-box development within the CBD will help boutique stores prosper, as opposed to locating the development on a greenfield site. Charter Hall, the developers behind the Park Megacentre, had confirmed as of August 2010, the major anchors of the development will be the relocation of Hawke's Bay's largest, The Warehouse, and the relocation of the city's Mito 10 Mega. The new sports park is proposed as a regional facility and includes a velodrome, all-weather athletics track and sports grounds for most other sporting codes represented in NZ Sport. Since its completion, the Hastings Sports Park now hosts multiple tennis courts, netball courts and an internationally recognized hockey turf. Tourism. Hastings District is quite historic and is very welcoming of tourists, and features a tourism industry based on lifestyle activities rather than attractions. The majority of tourists are domestic, usually from other regions within New Zealand. Scheduled airline services to Hawke's Bay operate through Hawke's Bay Airport, and the nearby Hastings Aerodrome is available for private planes. Tourism in Hawke's Bay is growing at an extremely rapid rate. In the recent decade, Hawke's Bay Airport's annual passenger numbers have grown from a 2005 count of 297,000 to a count of 476,000 in the year ending the 30th of June 2015. In the next 5 years, passenger numbers are expected to exceed 550,000, bringing many new people into Hawke's Bay, with Hastings benefiting from the greater tourism. Hastings' largest drawcard is the wine and food trail established around the productive hinterland. There are over 75 wineries in the surrounding area, including New Zealand's oldest winery restaurant. Boutique food industries are becoming popular, with cheese, fine meats, and locally produced delicacies seen on display at the Hawke's Bay Farmers Market. Outdoor leisure activities dominate, with beaches, river, mountain biking, tramping, and golf being popular. In summer, many large-scale events attract domestic tourists, including the Spring Racing Carnival, the Blossom Parade, Harvest Hawke's Bay Weekend, and various concerts and events. The Blossom Festival was once a large national event in the mid-20th century, with charter trains from Wellington and Auckland coming for the event. This, however, has slowly declined in popularity. Hastings' specialist attractions include New Zealand's largest water park, called Splash Planet, which replaced Fantasyland near the turn of the millennium, Cape Kidnappers, Tamata Peak, and access to an abundance of nature reserves and mountain treks. Architecturally speaking, Hastings suffered similar to Napier in the 1931 Hawke's Bay earthquake. However, because of the lesser damage by fire, Hastings maintained more pre-earthquake buildings. Both towns gained a legacy from the disaster by rebuilding in the then fashionable and highly distinctive Art Deco style, similar to that of Miami, FL, USA. Hastings also possesses a large amount of Spanish mission architecture. Sadly, Hastings succumbed to rapid redevelopment in the 1960s-70s, which saw many 1930s buildings replaced. Horse of the Year Show. Hawke's Bay and Amp-P Showgrounds in Hastings is the home to the annual NZ Horse of the Year Show, held in March. It is one of the biggest sporting events in the Southern Hemisphere, and attracts 2,500 horse and rider combinations competing in 19 disciplines, including dressage, show hunter, eventing, show jumping, and polocross, and many breed classes, to name a few. It has a budget of around $3 million New Zealand dollars, and attracts over 70,000 visitors from over NZ and internationally over the 5-day show. Transport. Road. Hastings is served by a state highway, which connects Hastings with Napier, Wairoa and Gisborne to the north, and Wellington, Masterton and Palmerston north to the south. SH2 jumps over Hastings, as it is not recognized as a state highway within the urban boundaries of the city, due to the road layout of Hastings. SH2's northern and southern sections did not meet up. This is the only point in SH2's continuation where there is a gap, and it is not shown on maps. SH2 enters and exits Hastings in a northeast and southwest direction. Heading northeast, it passes through residential Hastings, then follows the Clive River through the towns of Whakatu and Clive. Bridges across the Clive to Tarekuri and Naruroro rivers before following the coast into Napier. Heading southwest, it crosses the Haritanga Plains, passing through Longlands and Paki, then follows the railway south through Poukawa Valley. State Highway begins at a junction just north of Takopa, and connects Hastings and Hawke's Bay to the Ruataniwha Valley and western Hawke's Bay. It provides an alternative, quieter and shorter route into Hawke's Bay. It also connects Hastings to many of Hawke's Bay's wineries, for which the region is known internationally. It makes up part of the Hawke's Bay Wine Trail. Hastings is connected to Napier through the Hawke's Bay Expressway, also known as the Napier-Hastings Expressway, and provides a more direct and efficient link between the two cities compared to SH2, and better access to Hawke's Bay Airport. The expressway also provides a more direct and efficient route to the port of Napier for heavy vehicle traffic coming from Hastings, as it allows them to avoid traveling through too much of the Hastings urban area. The expressway has connections to many of Hastings's arterial roads that lead to the city centre and outlying suburbs, such as the junctions at Omafu Road, York Road, Flaxmere Avenue and Evandon Road. Rail. The Palmerston North Gisborne Line is a secondary mainline railway in the North Island of New Zealand. The PNGL line runs right through the centre of Hastings and connects Hastings to the North Island Main Trunk Railway near Palmerston North. The railway divides Hastings in a southwest to northeast direction and cuts off many of the main streets in the centre of the city, many being labelled as east-west depending on what side of the railway they originate from. Passenger services ran into Hastings until it was closed in 2001, and the Hastings railway station is now a major centre for freight services along the PNGL line and provides the port of Napier with many of its freight exports. Coat of arms. The city has a coat of arms, and the heraldic blazon is arms per pale vert and argent, in dexter a cross-crosslet fichi or in sinister, on a cross carved with the Maori pattern gules, a sun in splendour, or on a chief party per pale argent and vert, a lion passant gardened, armed and langed gules within an orly of fern leaves, all counterchanged. An escutcheon charged with a mancha gules, crest on a wreath of the colours, clouds argent, razor of sunbursts supporting a toothed wheel, perforated of 6, scented and rimmed argent, gules, supporters dexter, a ram, tail-cooped, horned and hoofed or proper, supporting on a staff proper palewise flying to the dexter, an ensign sable, 2 bars argent edged and charged with the hawk rising or sinister, a bull, armed and hoofed or supporting a staff property palewise flying to the sinister, edged or a New Zealand ensign, all supported by a profusion of apples, pears, peaches, grapes and mirro berries with the leaves, surmounting a Maori-style carved panel representing Rongo Matane and Haumitiki'i, all proper. Motto Urbis Ruris Concordia. Notable residents. Notable residents of the Hastings metro area have included Martin Campbell, TV and film director; Josh Kronfeld, all-black rugby player who attended Hastings Boys High; Bruce Robertson, all-black rugby player who attended Hastings Boys High; John Timu, rugby player who represented New Zealand in rugby union and rugby league, and attended Lindisfarne College in Hastings; Tyne Randall, rugby player who captained the All Blacks and attended Lindisfarne College in Hastings; Paul Holmes, radio and television broadcaster; Georgina Evers-Swindle, Olympic rowing gold medalist; Caroline Evers-Swindle, Olympic rowing gold medalist; Alan Duff, author and co-founder of Duffy Books in Homes; Jason Reeves, radio and television host who attended Karamu High School in Hastings; James Wattie, industrialist, entrepreneur and founder of Wattie's; Eric Young, Prime TV news presenter; Donna Awateri Huata, politician convicted of fraud; Greg Murphy, V8 supercar racer; Joe Bielka Peterson, Premier of Queensland, Australia; Alfred Meebold, botanist, writer, and anthroposopher; Robert Falcon, medical missionary, explorer and ceremonial magician; George Napier, all-black who attended Maori Agricultural College; Sam Kelt, businessman and sponsor of the Kelt Capital Stakes; John Cowie, developed and marketed the Jandal, and died in Te Auanga; Phil Judd, musician, composer and founding member of Split Ends; Mark Paston, New Zealand representative football goalkeeper; Joan Whiffen, amateur paleontologist who discovered the first dinosaur fossils in New Zealand; Ian Smith, New Zealand representative cricketer.